Welcome back, I'm Max Bagishev, and these are the news from Kazakhstan. The trial over 5 police officers suspended in opening fire at civilians during December 16 disorders opened in Aktau on Friday. The charges brought against the law enforcement officers are based on the Criminal Code Article 308, which implies abuse of power and professional duties with weapon employment. The main evidence of police shooting at civilians near the square in Zhanaozen had first appeared on the internet in December 20th last year. Since it was posted on YouTube, the video has been viewed more than 200,000 times.
Footage shows that police were shooting to kill the running civilians, with some police officers making aimed fire and finishing off the wounded with batons. Apparently, this footage was made from an apartment located near the square. The footage was made by women as their voices are heard. According to the official data of the General Prosecution Office, on December 16 and 17, the death toll in Zhanaozen and Shetpe reached 17, with more than 100 injured.
The police officers' trial has begun with questioning of victims, majority of whom had confirmed the fact of shootings. One of them had even demanded the defendants to be put on death row.
Kaldubayev Tigaliyev, Deputy Chief of Internal Affairs Department of Mangistau Region, Bekjan Baldabayev, Head of DIA Anti-Extremism Department, Yerlan Bakıtkaliuli, Vice Chief of Main Department of Internal Affairs, Rinat Zhaldubayev and Nurlan Yezbirgen, DIA police investigators, all of them are among criminal defendants. 4 of them are under house arrest and 1 was given a written undertaking not to leave the place. Some of the victims in this regard voiced their protest. The injured were questioned before noon. They told that they were shot on December 16, though they haven't seen the policeman. Gulzhan Yergaliyeva, the journalist and public activist, the participant of the trial, believes that this is happening for a reason. In my opinion, most of them were intimidated or bribed. None of them is able to clearly state whether they were not injured by policemen. In the afternoon, the witnesses were telling that policemen had been directly firing at people. The resident of Zhanaozen, Amanjol Abdishev, lost his wife, mother of 4 children, who was shot in her head and neck near the square. The young man who testified after recognized himself on the video posted on the web by the user Soule540, which captured the injured man being chased down and beaten up. He said that they put a gun on his head and threatened to kill him if he breathes a word. Mother of murdered Baybek Ubaydullayev said that she couldn't recognize her son as he was shot in his face. Yusimbek Nurov, protesting oil industry worker, still cannot recover from the wound in his leg. He said that instead of protecting people, the police was shooting at him. Armed police started shooting people when I came to the square. Some say that they haven't seen the police. I have no reason to lie. Everybody saw how police started aimed fire at people. Today, one of the testifying victims informed that he was wounded at 6 p.m. near his house. Yertais Baldiyev said that the special police unit appeared from behind the maternity hospital and fired directly at people. No one maintained resistance against people, he said. State prosecutors only asked the victims whether they had seen who threw stones at police. Prosecutors referred to the protesters as the rebels. Gulzhan Yergaliyeva says that the very first day of court proceedings appeared in an unfavorable light. Orders from above were given to present these events in such way. That's how they want to justify the police and the shooting. For instance, today the prosecutors, instead of helping the victims and assisting them to ask the right questions, they limited their interrogation to whether they had seen the hooligans. Attorneys' behavior and defendants' indifferent facial expressions provoke such assumptions. Neither of defendants admitted their guilt. Victims requested severe punishment for defendants. Mother of Baybek Ubaydullayev cried, "How am I supposed to tell my students about the good when I see such inhumanity?" she asked.
Upon defense request, an ex-mayor of Zhanaozen, Orak Sarbapeyev, had testified as a witness in the hearings on Friday. The former official took the side of the rioters and accused the Kazmunaygas company for not addressing the problems of its workers in timely manner. The defense had showered the witness with many questions, amongst which the main question arose: who did make the order to open fire? Sarbapeyev replied he does not have answer to that question. Meanwhile, Marjana Spandiarova, another witness in the process, had straight away accused Nazarbayev, for which got a strict warning from the judge. On top of all, the trial featured virtual witnesses testifying via Skype, thus raising defendants' outrage.
The ex-mayor of Zhanaozen, Orak Sarbapev, who finds himself subjected to investigation after the last year disorders had started his speech stating that during the 7-month-long strike, none of the workers had violated public order. The official says he was sure people would not go for violence, but for some reason, at 8:30 a.m. on the fateful day, the heads of the regional administration, Internal Affairs Department, National Security Agency have suddenly appeared in the town. Defendants recalled President saying his local subordinates haven't informed him about the situation timely, to which the witness could not respond. However, he confirmed that machine gun fire was heard that afternoon. Sarbapev did answer to most of the defendants' questions, and there were instances when the judge objected some of the questions about the leader of the nation. I asked Sarbapev all the questions I wanted. He responded, and I'm satisfied. I am defending 4 citizens in the case. One of the National Social Democratic Party leaders, Marjana Spandiarova, had served the witness during yesterday's proceedings in which she declared none of the 37 defendants is guilty and placed the responsibility on state officials from Zhanaozen city administration head all the way to President Nazarbayev. The judge, however, insisted her to bring up facts and not just share her opinion and warned that the politician might be removed from the courtroom otherwise. They demanded I bring concrete facts and not express my opinion, but they wouldn't let me complete my arguments. I do possess the facts and documents. Timur Kulibayev, along with the commission members, last summer had voiced far not flattering statements about the rally participants. I even got the video record of those statements. An incident took place in the afternoon session. Defendant Zhoraspayeva's attorneys have left his laptop in the defense members' room during a lunch break. According to the Zhanaozen 2011 International Committee members, the judge Nazgashibayev's staff members have inspected it and found audio records of the process. It is quite confusing. Just look at the situation. The lawyer, who is protected by the law, leaves his property unattended during lunch break. Taking an advantage of this, the court staff members take it and inspect the computer with the judge involved in it personally. Honestly, I'm shocked. Zhoraspayeva's attorneys had no comments on the matter.
Я не знаю вообще. Конечно, это комментировать я не буду пока.
Но это факт действительно имел место, да? Что именно
Наверное, есть раз заявил председатель суда. Наверное, имел место.
Just before continuing the hearing after the lunch break, presiding judge Nagashibayev had made it clear that his courtroom is not the place for making statements. Observers suggested those witnesses could as well be the prosecutor's office staff. The anonymous witnesses could not answer many questions. For example, a police officer nicknamed Murat told the court about defendants' active participation in the violence by throwing rocks at them, breaking the police fences, etc. However, he couldn't respond to defendants' cross-questions. The investigative officer from Aktau Internal Affairs Department was summoned to the yesterday's hearing to testify as a witness. Defendants have recognized him as the one who tortured them. However, the police officer had denied all the accusations.
The Internal Affairs Ministry representative from Astana, Mukhtar Kojaev, testified on the 3rd day of the trial over the former head of Zhanaozen Temporary Detention Ward. The official stated he never gave a written order to bring the arrested to the detention center, although confirmed that he gave a parallel instruction. He also claimed he received no appeals for hospitalization by detainees and has no relation to the tortures whatsoever. However, the Jas Alash newspaper chief editor believes that along with Temirov, Kojaev should also serve a defendant in the case.
A former head of Internal Affairs Department, Kojaev, gave his evidence yesterday. It appears he got a promotion and he's placed in Astana now. He arrived to give his evidence from there. What was he promoted for? His place is not in Astana but in prison. I believe he also must be brought to justice. He had a share in that crime. It doesn't matter that he personally didn't beat or kill, but he ought to be persecuted for allowing this to happen. He says that he didn't see anything and doesn't know anything. Yelena Kostyuchenko, a journalist from Novaya Gazeta, also came from Moscow to give her evidence. She was in Zhanaozen from 18th to 21st of December. The journalist had a chance to interview the now late Bazarbay Kinzhibayev. According to Yelena, the man was in a critical condition but refused to call for an ambulance. He was afraid that he might be detained again. A surgeon, Sayran Hangirev, who performed an operation on the deceased, confirmed this. According to Hangirev's statement in court, Kinzhibayev explained his late call for medical help by his fright to find himself in custody again. The surgeon also stated that a timely hospital admission could have saved the deceased. When I spoke to him, I saw that his face was bruised, he had horrid huge hematoma on his back and his groin area was damaged. He defecated with blood and he was suffering from abdominal pain. We thought that he had sustained a broken rib, but he died just 2 days later and it was revealed that his intestines were torn. The telephones were out of service, so the family members couldn't call for an ambulance, and Bazarbai was too frightened to go out into street because those men who were detained again were not released again. Of course, this is one of the most outrageous cases. I'm glad that this incident is being presented to the court and there is a chance that the head of the temporary detention facility will be punished. It's a shame that those who tortured Bazarbai have not been found.
Journalists of the Respublika newspaper covering the trials in Aktau of the Zhanaozen and Shatpe disorders reported that authorities are putting pressure on them. Upon return from the trial, correspondents found gobs on the doors of their flats. They are sure that doors were clean in the morning when they left home. Journalist Alla Zlobina links this appearance with her professional activities and says this way the authorities are simply trying to threaten journalists.
This is certainly to do with the hearing. I don't know why. Perhaps they are warning. They want to intimidate me. A respectable apartment building, respectable entrance hall. Someone came here and spit at the door. It is unpleasant, of course. It gives a clear message. I believe there is a connection with the hearing, especially now when we report on evidence by anonymous witnesses and by the policemen. We report about that. According to the Golos Respubliki newspaper journalists, there are not the first signs of attention to them. The reporters state that from time to time somebody visits their rented flat. The girls purposefully left their notebook and when returned they found out that it had viruses. Perhaps someone tried to copy some information from the laptop. Our computers get more serious attacks than that. For instance, recently Alla and I have found out that Alla's computer had a keyboard bug. We decided to check my computer and I got shocked. In this case, I'm not frightened by this, but I'm rather puzzled, as frankly speaking. I have never run into a situation like this before. For the first time in my life, I'm facing such threats during a hearing upon my arrival to Aktau.
After 50 days of actions, including 23 submitted inquiries, numerous requests made by European Parliament members, pickets in front of the National Security Agency building, the wife of Vladimir Kozlov, the leader of Alga Party pending registration, was finally granted a date with her husband.
The visit lasted for 2 hours. Aliya says that Vladimir is in good health. Having spent much time in information isolation, he was eager to learn how things were going in Zhanaozen. Despite having access to the radio and newspapers in the cell, there is no media coverage regarding the events in the West. The opposition leaders believe that the investigation will be over soon. Most probably after holidays in May, he and a public activist, Serik Sapargali, who is also charged of promoting social hatred, will be transferred to court in Aktau. Kozlov was made aware of the case details and informed that the trial will be conducted in the state language. The leader of the Alga Party, which is currently pending registration, has to come up with around 35 head notes to back up his defense in a court of law. We have come up with several motions, all of them related to Timur Kulibayev, Nazarbayev's son-in-law. We requested that he be questioned in regards to the things he said about ethnic Kazakhs who returned to Kazakhstan. His words did contain social hatred messages when he contrasted natives Kazakh citizens with the ones who came back into the country. Kozlov's petition to question Kulibayev was rejected. Kozlov made one more petition regarding Nazarbayev's visit to Zhanaozen following the tragic events. During his visit, he said that all those 7 months he was unaware of the situation as no one reported to him. He wanted to clarify who was the one not reporting, who was keeping the president in the dark. The president said he was unaware of the situation and the motion regarding this has not been granted yet.
The Uralsk City Court had started reviewing the lawsuit of Imashev, the main ideologist of Western Kazakhstan, against the Uralskaya Nedelya newspaper correspondent Lukman Akhmedyarov, who was attacked on April 19th. The regional administration official had confirmed his appeal and asked the judge to satisfy it during the trial on Friday. To recap, the head of the Internal Policies Department of the regional administration asked the court to collect from the respondent about $34,000 for compensation of moral damage.
The main reason for the lawsuit the official brought against the journalist is the newspaper article of February 2nd this year named Brothers, Relatives and Connections. Imashev is mentioned in this article along with other region officials who have kin relations with high officials from Astana. The head ideologist made it clear in court that the words of the journalist are insulting, especially when Imashev is said to have kin relations with Astana head of city administration, and that this blood relation was the reason for this rampant career growth from school sports coach to head of regional administration. After hearing out the parties and studying the case files, the judge Chalkarov ruled to carry out an expert examination. However, Pavel Kochetkov, the defendant's representative, believes that the complainant may decide to close the case when time for next hearings comes. Currently, the complainant has charged his position regarding the lawsuit against Lukpan because now the man is in a heavy, complicated situation. When the judge asked him if he was willing to resolve the matter peacefully out of the court, and he answered that he was ready to peacefully resolve it on conditions that the newspaper publishes public apology regarding the controversial article.
A popular Kazakh rap artist, Takizhan, was visited by Almaty prosecutor's office on Friday. Takizhan told our reporters that he is being engaged as a witness in the case of one of the former Ozanmunay gas workers. Without going into details, Takizhan was asked one question about the reasons behind him transferring money to the rioting oil field workers' account. In the meantime, the dissent movement members are preparing for the April 28th rally. Another round of provocative actions were reported on Friday. This time, an identified people hacked the email account of Ar-Ruhak Foundation leader Bakhitjan Toregozhina and sent out email announcement on her behalf about the supposed postpone of the planned rally to April 29. Toregozhina was quick to inform that the rally will take place on the date, time and place as scheduled before, which is on April 28, 12 at noon in front of the Abay monument. Interestingly, the authorities have planned to hold a children's song festival at the very time on that very place of the same day.
Tomorrow morning, all those areas will be ready for rehearsals. As far as I know, the rehearsal is supposed to take place today also, but the area for the rehearsal was occupied. Nothing will be done there today, although various sports platforms will be set up tomorrow for sports competitions. All you're welcome to come at 10 a.m. tomorrow and be present at the festival. A similar childcare concert was arranged in short order a month ago. On that day, Kazakh citizens gathered at the Abay Memorial to honor the memory of those who lost their lives on December 16 in Zhanaozen. Despite the tragic date 100 days since the bloody suppression of riots in the West, the prayers were interrupted by loud music playing nearby. The education officials said that the holiday on April 28th coincides with the Year of Culture in Kazakhstan. They said that this was not an unexpected event. Cultural activity started over a month ago. The final of Children's Festival is going to take place today. The idea came from the Akhmedjan Yesimov, the city mayor, during the rehearsal taking place at Republic's Palace. The journalists asked a question regarding tomorrow's event, but were rudely brushed aside. Tomorrow, the Childcare Festival is going to be held here tomorrow, and I have nothing to do with it.
The dissent rally in Almaty is organized by Guljan Irgaliyeva, the chief editor of the Guljan.org website. In the last few days, the staff of Almaty City Prosecutor's Office continued visiting the dissent movement activists one by one to hand the official warning. Similar actions are taking place in other cities of Kazakhstan. On Friday, activist Guljan Irgaliyeva had made a public statement addressed at law enforcement agencies, in which she finally admitted that the idea of organizing the April 28 rally belongs to her.
I'd like to appeal to everyone, in particular to the representatives of the prosecution office, DIA, police administration, all those who are involved in persecution of these activists, and tell not to touch these people, because if you do, you will indeed commit a violation of human rights. Instead, you are welcome to address all your claims to me, the person who made the initiative to carry out the dissent rally in Almaty on April 28th near the Abay monument.
Meanwhile, as the survey showed, the residents of Almaty either have little heard about the upcoming rally or approached the idea of the rally quite skeptically. However, some said if people are protesting, there might be serious causes for that.
I don't support these protest actions. They have to appeal to the court and resolve their issues there instead of organizing actions. I believe that everything has to be supported by documents. Only then I can tell you my opinion. Which protest actions? It is absolutely right. People are being persecuted and they act like no one knows anything about it. I assume there are some problems people won't gather for no reason. Concerning the fact that police is arresting everyone and hinders protests, it was always like that. This is not something new.
President Nazarbayev had addressed the Kazakhstan's People Assembly session yesterday. In his speech, he had voiced quite a contradictory statement, saying there should not be a body system in appointing to various positions. The hint was made towards the trend of appointing the regional branches of the assembly the, quote, wrong people, end quote. In other words, this advisory body is ruled fully by President personally.
The laws have been enacted and we must make sure that those laws are being followed. People must be employed based on their merits and abilities rather than their connections and blood relations. Entering an education institution and obtaining a profession must also be based on merits. This is the reason for testing in the first place, to make it fair. I will once again request that the governments and ministries in charge take those issues on control and report to me directly. On the whole, the assembly session was held as usual. An hourly speech of the self-perpetuating leader at the People's Friendship Meeting, as the people named it, was without any important statements or messages. The president once again mentioned tolerance and peace as the main achievements for Kazakhstan and called upon the citizens to foster them. He then noted that currently society is facing terrorism and extremism threats and asked to keep the youth away from false religion. Ending his speech, the nation's leader did make a statement that mass media might perceive as ambiguous. The president said that the situation regarding freedom of speech in the country is better as compared to other post-Soviet communities. It is reassuring that the president didn't make comparisons with other, more reputable international organizations. We may openly say today that the freedom of speech in Kazakhstan is exercised in full extent within the frames of our legislation. The situation regarding freedom of speech in Kazakhstan is far better than that of our partners in CIS countries, Eurasian Economic Community, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or others.
Creating a positive image of Kazakhstan may no longer be an easy task to carry out. The release of promotion video about the country got immediately criticized by British media. One of the reasons films causes such controversies is the participation of the UK former Prime Minister Tony Blair in it in his current capacity of consultant to Kazakhstan. The Daily Telegraph had questioned statements made by Tony Blair about prospering Kazakhstan. Next report examines why the video that is meant to create a positive image of the country has caused an opposite reaction.
Raising image in 67 minutes, such was the length of the promotional video about Kazakhstan that was broadcasted recently on the state-owned Kazakhstan TV channel. It's that Tony Blair, the former Great Britain cabinet head, who was invited to work as the Kazakh government consultant for an undisclosed annual 6-digit figure. Blair doesn't speak a lot during the 67 minutes and says only positive things in the process. It's a country almost unique, I'd say, in its cultural diversity and the way it brings different faiths together and cultures together. In the work that I do there, I found them really smart people, very capable, very determined and very proud of their country. Tony Blair is praising Kazakhstan, whereas British journalists strongly criticize their ex-PM. Tony Blair stars in Kazakhstan promotional video is the title of an article in the Daily Telegraph. This influence newspaper was the first to publish criticism over Tony Blair's participation in the promo. How is it possible to say such things about the country where the opposition media is being persecuted and the human rights are violated, wonders Daily Telegraph reporter. He gives the comment of the representative of the International Human Rights Watch group in Central Asia. Tony Blair is in a better position than most to know that a country that violates fundamental human rights is not a good environment for economic investment. Alexei Vlasov, an international political expert, only partially agrees with the newspaper. To start with, one needs to consider the film's genre. Also, Tony Blair had a certain mission right from the start and fulfills it rather well. Yes, Tony Blair's role in the video is that of a communicator and image maker. He would certainly say only positive things. It is a promotion video, not an investigation. He's paid well for arranging liaisons with the West. He's doing a good job.
его офис стал работать.
Tony Blair rebut the journalist attacks via his press secretary. They're allegedly aware of the necessity of a human rights reform. That's what Mr. Blair is working on with the government.
Four explosions reported in Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk on Friday. According to latest updates, 29 people were harmed, most of whom were hospitalized. 12 people reported to be in moderately grave condition.
The total of 4 triggered bombs have been reported, according to the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Ukraine. The first explosion occurred at a tram stop around noon of local time. 3 more blew up near the cinema and close to a city park. The Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine has initiated a criminal case in accordance with the Criminal Code article related to terrorism. Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan is currently verifying the information on any injured Kazakh citizens. We have instructed Kazakhstan representative offices in Ukraine. We know about tragic events. We hope there were no Kazakh citizens among the victims. As soon as we receive the information, we will inform the mass media.
A car accident took place in Almaty on Thursday night involving one of the vehicles from the motorcade of Russian Gosduma's Speaker Sergei Narishkin. According to the Novosti Kazakhstan agency, the accident occurred as a result of driving regulations violated by motorcade crew.
The driver didn't notice the traffic controller's stopping signal and kept driving until he reached the crossroads where he collided with a passenger car Mazda. The department specified that the car with parliamentary delegation members from Kazakhstan and Russia, who accompanied Narishkin during his official visit, was not part of the main cortege that had already left the crossroads when the collision took place. No one was injured during the accident.
The wave of administrative arrests and fines for minor violations and hooliganism is observed across the country. This week, Aktau became an absolute leader for the number of arrests for littering the streets. 45 lawbreakers will now spend several days behind bars in Pavlodar, though such tough measures are not applied. However, fines are issued to citizens littering the streets on regular basis.
From the human point of view, as city residents, we should not litter and throw cigarette butts and empty bottle everywhere. This should be a norm. The fight for clean streets of Kazakhstan began after Nursultan Nazarbayev proposed to severely punish people who litter in public places. Then the police started suppressing the offenders. In the end, it all resulted in a countrywide campaign. The police is practically watching people who threw rubbish on the ground, and those who didn't sincerely repent of their deeds will be incarcerated for several days. Kazakh citizens themselves have different attitudes to such drastic measures. Some believe that it is wrong to arrest people for an insignificant violation, yet others believe the opposite.
This is all we have time for now. Join us next week for more updates on Decent Rally and Aktau trials here on channel K+. Goodbye.